What is the Dunes sagebrush lizard, and how did this little critter endanger a big chunk of the Texas economy? Joining us from her office in Austin in early, State Controller Susan Combs. Hey, Susan, welcome to 660 AM The Answer. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Mark. Thanks so much.
It is my pleasure. All right, tell me about the critter first and the threat it posed, a threat which has been defeated.
Okay, what happened was that the Fish and Wildlife Service proposed the listing of this lizard in mid-December of 2010, and the lizard is found in Texas in about 6 counties. Those counties are hugely important. They produce about 1 million barrels a day of oil, which is 20% of the lower 48 states' oil production. So any impact to the economy of that region was going to ripple not just through Texas but across the country. So everybody began to get worried. So during the session, people began to talk about what can we do to fend off this listing, because there's been a series of lawsuits filed by the Center for Biological Diversity, which basically mandates Fish and Wildlife Service to proceed to analyze everything, and they hope lots of species will be listed. Texas has about 113 of these species which are on this target list. Well, in the special session of 11, legislature said, let's get somebody, Chief Financial Officer Susan Combs, let's get her to put together a safety net in case they try to list it. So they passed a bill summer of 11, and we got to working immediately, and we developed a voluntary, you sign up if you feel like it, conservation plan, and Fish and Wildlife accepted it in February, just about 4 months ago, and they also had given us a 6-month extension to get super-duper new peer-reviewed scientific information showing there were lots of these guys running around. So yesterday, after reviewing all this information, they gave us the extremely welcome news. There was no warranting, no finding that the lizard was either going to be endangered or threatened, and that was terrific. It really did avert a huge economic problem for the state.
Well, I want to ask really how that would have played out, just so we can all just go, whew. But first, this was just for the cast of characters. Was this the decision of U.S. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar?
Yes.
And Dan Ash, the head of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service?
Yes, and in fact, I spoke to Director Ash yesterday, and I spoke to Regional Administrator Benjamin Tuggle, and what I pointed out to them, I said, I certainly got the message in their press release. I've never before, Mark, seen them say positive things like, after a careful analysis of new peer-reviewed scientific data. That is a huge new step for them, because a lot of times they've been relying on what I would call sort of junk science instead of sound science. And so when they put this in here, that is a clear signal to the attackers, like the Center for Biological Diversity, that they're going to have to come up with very, very solid information. With respect to what would have happened, you wouldn't have been able to drill. The possibility of drilling in habitat would have been really, really tough. There's about 250,000 acres of habitat that is in these 6 counties, and we've managed to get folks to sign up covering about 85% of that habitat, and that means you can still drill. You can drill in habitat now, so that 1 million barrels per day, which we hope will go up through increased production, that was at risk.
Well, this administration hates oil, and this administration hates Texas, so you were swimming against the tide from the beginning.
In fact, I would tell you, Mark, I was convinced in June of 11 that we were toast. I was convinced that they were going to list. In fact, I was being told that sort of, in roundabout ways. But we said we just got to try, because there's only 4 strategies for dealing with the Endangered Species Act. Number 1 is you can try to do a safety net and see how that works. Number 2, you can try to get Congress to change the law, which is uphill. Number 3, you can try to defund them. Then number 4, if they list, only then can you really go into court. So you're really behind the 8 ball. This is, I think, an amazing 180 for the service.
Now, the Center for Biological Diversity, the name itself is a talk show topic. Who are these people, and do we need to just watch them like a hawk? Another species that's probably doing well?
You do need to watch them like a hawk. There's about 200 more lawsuits pending in the pipeline, Mark, from these guys, and the Wild Earth Guardians is the other folks who do this. There's a very common practice. What you do is you sue, and then the service settles. And so you basically have sort of, listing proposed by litigation. The service does not have the money to fight these guys off. With 200 lawsuits pending, they're being run over. And the problem is that they've got a lot of resources, and then they get paid. When they win, they get paid. And so the problem is there's a steady pipeline of money into these guys, and basically the private sector and state governments don't have the resources to match it. This was an unusual deal. The oil and gas sector ran around and they raised funds and they hired super-duper scientists from A&M to go out instantly and do a habitat survey looking for the lizards. They found lots of them, which was good. But it took about $250,000 of upfront money just to go hire people for a 2-month period.
Well, so as we end up examining this further, how vigilant are we going to have to be? I mean, because it doesn't seem like it happens all that often.
We've got a website. We got worried about this, Mark. We put up a website called www.keepingtexasfirst.org. Keepingtexasfirst.org. You can click on your county, and your county will show you how many species are being proposed for listing or being looked at, and the darker the color of the county, the more species you have. We're also clocking EPA, we're clocking the Federal Register. We do all this updating about every couple of weeks. Bexar County, San Antonio, is sort of ground zero. They have 25-plus species. And the reason I bring that up is that Bexar County is right sort of the north end of the entire Eagle Ford Shale, which is back to your point, they don't like Texas. I think when you look at the map, you're going to see an awful lot of dark counties along the Gulf Coast where refineries are, the whole bottom area, and then, of course, the Permian Basin is darker, which means every single month there's going to be something else. Now, by September the 30th, two very important counties, Williamson County and Bell County, are going to be facing 4 salamanders.
a sentence I did not think I would hear when I woke up this morning. Well, listen, we thank you for your vigilance. It's always great to talk to you. Let's get back, since you are controller, let's talk a little budgetary stuff. But thanks for walking the point on this and protecting that pocket of the Texas oil industry. Susan, I appreciate it so much, and thanks for being with us. State Controller Susan Combs.